ਸਰੀ 'ਚ ਅੱਜ ਟਾਊਨ ਹਾਲ ਕਰਵਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ ਐਬਸਟੋਡ ਵਾਸੀ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਸਾਹਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਮਰਡਰ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ। ਲਗਾਤਾਰ ਲੋਕ ਇਹੀ ਸਵਾਲ ਖੜੇ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਇਹੀ ਸਵਾਲ ਪੁੱਛ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਕੀ ਸੇਫ ਹੈ, ਕਿ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਮਹਿਫੂਜ਼ ਹੈ, ਕਦੋਂ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੇਫਟੀ ਆਏਗੀ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ ਗੋਲੀਆਂ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਅੱਜ ਸਵੇਰੇ ਵੀ ਗੋਲੀਆਂ ਚੱਲੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਅੱਜ ਇਹ ਟਾਊਨ ਹਾਲ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤਮਾਮ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਸ਼ੀਅਨਸ ਨੇ ਆਉਣਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ਤਾਂ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਉਸ ਦਿਨ ਵੀ ਅੱਜ ਗੋਲੀਆਂ ਚਲਾਈਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਨੇ। ਲੋਕ ਇਹੀ ਸਵਾਲ ਖੜੇ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਕਦੋਂ ਬਦਲੇ ਜਾਣਗੇ, ਕਦੋਂ ਲਾਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਤਬਦੀਲੀ ਆਏਗੀ, ਕਦੋਂ ਜੋ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਹੈ, ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਕਰੂਗੀ। ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਦੇ ਗੋਲੀਆਂ ਚੱਲੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਤਾਂ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਐਕਸ਼ਨ ਵੱਖਰਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਸੀ। ਕੀ ਕੁਛ ਅੱਜ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਸਟੇਜ ਤੋਂ ਕਿਹਾ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਸਾਂਝਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ।
My only request tonight is that we stand united, Liberal, Conservative, NDP or otherwise. The pillars of our community are being targeted. ਸਾਡੇ community ਦੇ thumb ਦੇ ਹਮਲੇ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ. The people targeting us don't care which side of the aisle we're on. They just want us divided, confused, and afraid. That tactic is nothing new, but history shows us when we're united, we're strong. Remember Baba Banda Singh Bahadur, who rose from tragedy to justice, not through hate, but through unity. Our gurus taught us to respond to darkness with light. These demons know they can't defeat us in the light. That's why they hide in the dark, behind masks, behind proxies. But we won't join them there, we'll bring them into the light. Let us follow our guru's example, to protect our community not through anger or vengeance, but through chardi kala, through high spirits, courage, and compassion. So my call to leadership, I ask our leaders here tonight, across all parties, put politics aside and take real, enforceable action to protect Canadians now. We don't need more promises, we need protection. Though my pain tempts it, I stand here not for revenge, but for responsibility and accountability. To every father, mother, son, and daughter who deserves to live in Canada without fear, I ask you to give those who are directly in harm's way the assurance and resources to protect their families in some form, in some capacity. It's not a secret who's being targeted. So think beyond what's been done, think outside the box. At the very least, it's time to start vetting the people coming into this country, not out of exclusion, but out of protection. That shouldn't feel like too much to ask at this point. How many more lives have to be taken before we reflect and reevaluate on the current state of Canada? My father's death came without warning, without reason, and I'll be honest, I'm not interested in living in a country where I have to look over my shoulder, nor do I have time for that. In one place, I believe it was in Brampton, a police officer told a victim, sell their business and go find a low-profile job. That's not a solution. Saying that crime is down overall based on some out-of-context previous statistic isn't a comforting response. We didn't come to Canada to hide, we came here to build, to contribute, to build a better life for our families. To be clear, I have no issue with the police. They're doing their best within their constraints, but their hands are tied. It shocks me that in Canada, people can get away with murder, while in places like India, the authorities act decisively and swiftly. I'm not calling for a surveillance state nor the erosion of privacy rights, but to utilize the resources we have more effectively. Let's be honest, catching one suspect won't make a difference when there's hundreds of more like him roaming the streets. One of the key asks of our petition is simple and effective. Give law enforcement the power to act when Canadians are being terrorized. Strengthen the collaboration between Canadian intelligence services and combined special enforcement to track, disrupt, and prosecute those who threaten Canadians in a timely manner. Don't wait until another family like mine is standing up here. Now let me use 9/11 as an example, because thousands of lives, thousands of families are also affected here. There was no red tape, there was no bureaucracy slowing down action. Governments moved with unity and urgency to protect their people. The same level of seriousness is what we need now. Enough is enough. Innocent Canadians are fearing for their lives. Let's stop catering to these criminals and create some fear in their hearts. I want criminals jumping at every noise in their sleep, not my mother. I hope that's clear. We're not asking for sympathy or flowers, we're demanding security and sovereignty. Now to the community, to the business owners, the students, the farmers, the lawyers, and every law-abiding taxpayer in this crowd who are the backbone of Canada. This is the time to rise, to speak up, to protect our well-being. This isn't about faith. Sorry, it's not about fear, it's about faith. Faith in justice, faith in God, faith in our country, faith that our voices united can make a difference. So I won't pretend I'm not angry, I am, but I'll channel that anger into action just as my father would have wanted. My connection isn't just to his memory, but it's to this community, to all of you. So I ask you, honor my father, not only with candles tonight, but with courage tomorrow. Let's protect each other, let's fill the gaps in our beliefs, and unite as one. Ek Onkar, oneness, that's what this symbol stands for. So I'll finish by saying this. Our gurus gave us a code to live by, one that defines the Khalsa spirit. Give fear to none and accept fear from none. That's the creed that my father lived by. He didn't bow to threats. He never used his strength to harm another. He believed that freedom had no meaning without courage, and courage has no honor without compassion. That's the difference between the reputation our fathers built in this country over the past century and the one that have developed in our community in the past decade. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you to every single individual that's taken the time to be here with us today. Not one of you is more or less important than the other. I want to start by saying I love all of you, every one of you, including the ones that did this to my dad. I love you too. A lot of people have popularized the phrase nirpo nirvair, meaning without fear, without hate. But most people only use it to express their fearlessness. I promise you, I have no fear. But that fearlessness is tied to something deeper. I hold no hatred. And I don't think you can truly have one without the other. Despite my love, justice will be served, and judgment will come, in this life or the next. Unlike me, my father never believed in an afterlife. When I would debate him on that topic, he used to explain to me how for him, Canada was heaven on earth. He believed that with his whole heart. He loved this country. Not for what it gave him, but for what it allowed him to give back. And that's why what happened to him cannot be seen as any particular community's issue. This is not a Punjabi community issue. This is not a South Asian community issue. This is a Canadian problem. So we're here today, united together, to find a solution. I know a lot of assumptions are being made and tied to my dad's murder, but it's important that everyone clearly understands the truth. My dad never received a single call for extortion. That's a fact.
And I want you all to know who my brother truly was. What happened to my brother was unimaginable. It was cruel, senseless, and still feels impossible to accept. He was taken from us not because of who he was, but because of this growing cycle of violence that now threatens all of us. Excuse me. My brother Darshan was a man of deep integrity, discipline, and compassion. He carried responsibility like a badge of honor. He devoted his life to helping others, not when it was convenient, but whenever he was needed. This was his superpower: solving problems, lifting people up, and never walking away from someone in need, no matter what the cost was to himself. He was a devoted husband, a proud father, and a very protective brother. He was a man deeply rooted in his values. He gave his time, his heart, his energy to make sure everyone around him was cared for and on the right path. My brother was passionately and firmly against any sort of substance abuse. He spoke out often, guiding our younger generation to stay focused on education and hard work. He believed that success must come from honesty, effort, and integrity. Anyone who crossed his path can attest to my brother's generosity, his discipline, and his unwavering moral compass. As his sister, I saw this every day, how much he gave of himself to others. He often would say to me, and I quote, "If you ever have a problem, come to me first." And he meant it. This was his promise, and this was his protection. He made us all feel safe just by being in the world. Darshan was always working, always thinking about what needed to be done. He lived with purpose every single day, driven by a sense of duty to do what was right. My brother had no tolerance for dishonesty or wrongdoing of any kind. He believed deeply that success must come from integrity, hard work, and good intentions, never shortcuts. He set that example quietly but firmly through the way he lived and the way he led. It was very rare to see him rest because he found peace in being useful. My brother was built to serve, to solve, and to support. For my sister-in-law Manjeet and my nephews, Nevi and Arpin, this loss is beyond measure. Their world has been turned upside down in an instant. They've lost not only a husband and a father, but the person who guided, protected, and grounded them. I ask everyone here tonight to just think and pause for a moment and think about what that would feel like, to lose the one who was always your first call, your guide, your strength. It's a pain no family should ever have to endure. And it's why we're here today, united in grief, in compassion, and in purpose. Darshan believed in this country. He believed in Canada and everything that Canada stands for. Fairness, hard work, community, compassion. He built his life here. He gave back here. He believed that in Canada, good people could live in peace and prosper through honesty and effort. But tonight, we must ask, what happened to that peace? This violence doesn't care about background, about culture, or belief. And if we don't stand together as Canadians, as human beings, then the fear that took my brother could one day touch another family, another home, another heart. And that is why we're here tonight. Not for politics, not for blame, but for unity, for safety, and for peace. Before I finish, I want to ask each of you to imagine something. Imagine if something like this had happened to you, to your family, or to someone you love. And I hope and pray to God that it never, ever does. What would you change? What grudges would you let go of? What words would you finally say? Who would you forgive? Because all of it changes in just one instance. And in the end, the only thing that truly matters is love, kindness, and the people who stand beside you. And my brother was always there to stand beside anyone who needed him. And our lives will never be the same without him. But as we hold our candles tonight, let's remember not just the man we lost, but the light he left behind, the light we must now carry forward. As I was sitting down there, I wasn't going to say anything else, but I just wrote down a few more words. And I just want to say to the ones who did this, I don't know what pain or emptiness led you down this path, but I hope one day you realize the depth of what you took from us. A good, kind, honest man who wanted nothing more than to make this world better for others. May you find humanity to never let this happen again. Thank you everyone for being here today, for my family. And as Jenny said earlier, the courage, this does take a lot of courage and strength. And that courage and strength and confidence that we all have, it was only my brother that taught us that. He gave us that. So for my brother Darshan, his wife and sons, and for every family who deserves to feel safe, and for the Canada he believed in.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ I want to offer my condolences to this family. ਮੇਰੀ ਦਰਦ ਭਰੀ ਸ਼ਰਧਾਂਜਲੀ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਸਾਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ. This should not have happened. Not in Canada. Not in our streets, not in our community. And I also want to thank all the members of Parliament that are here, from Alberta and otherwise, for all the MLAs that are here, the councillors, mayor, thank you for being here. This is an important conversation, important discussion. And many of you know that I've spent about 35 years in law enforcement. And about 15 years ago, I started to say that solving a crime is not success. It's recognizing that we failed to prevent that crime. No family here is going to be happy that the police solved the crime of the death of a family member. That is not what we're looking for. What we're looking for, what we want, is that this doesn't happen. That every person that wakes up in the morning, spends their day earning an honest living, comes home at night and raises a family, is not someone that has to be afraid in this country that they're going to be harmed or injured or killed. And that is what we're living through today. So let me share a few things. I know I've got very few minutes here. But I want you to know that as soon as I got appointed, I started working with all of the members of parliament, the people here in the city, and the MLAs and the government here in British Columbia. There are ways forward. Absolutely, there are ways forward. There are ways that we can prevent, we can intervene, we can disrupt. Enforcement should be our last resort.
Very well said.
Not the first. So, the work ahead of us is this, that anyone chooses a life of criminality in this country where the police say, we know these people and that we have intelligence on them, that is the very moment, not just the police, the CRA, the CBSA, the immigration institutions, and every other agency, federally, provincially, or municipally, that has any role to play in public safety, is engaged to stop that person who's made a decision to live a life of criminality. Period. If the police say, we know who these people are, then my question, and I've been asking this question even within the police, why are we not stopping them? There's a difference between rights and privileges. Rights in this country are guaranteed. Privileges are not. So we begin to examine the privileges that every person who decides that they're going to enter into an organized crime group or become a gang member, that they no longer should enjoy those privileges. Those privileges are for people that are hardworking. Those privileges are for people who are contributing to this country. Those privileges are for the people who are raising families. It's not for criminals. It's not for people who said, "मैं आज उठ के इस मुल्क दे विच कानून तो बाद काम करना है." When you make that decision, that is the very decision that we all, that are politicians or parliamentarians or people who have been charged and given this duty, responsibility of public safety, we must rise at that moment. We must find different ways. We must think beyond the Criminal Code of Canada. Because the Criminal Code of Canada requires the police to either know that a crime is going to happen or that a crime has happened. It is not enough. It is not enough. And we've seen it over and over and over again. I've run out of time. This is the promise I will leave you with.
So, Senator Dillon, I have a question, following question. So what was their response to your suggestion?
The response is that we're starting to find ways now, and you've seen that there are bills that are being brought forward. Just the other day, we saw CBSA identify 3 people that are going to get sent home, another 76 that have been identified that they're working on. These are the types of things that we have to do. The reason I ran in the elections last year was for this purpose, this exact purpose, that we need change on how we address these issues. We have to begin to think about how we address the issue beyond the Criminal Code of Canada. It's a larger conversation. I won't be able to speak to all of it in the 5 minutes, but we can definitely continue the conversation. So here's my promise to everyone here, and I know that everybody here that has stood up to be elected and counted to be a part of the solution is going to make the same promise. I understand that. This is not easy life, public service. It's not. So if they're here, regardless of what party it is, I salute them for stepping up to take on this public service. And I will work with everybody and anybody, regardless of the party, as senators were independent, towards that solution so that we don't have these crowds, but we have crowds where we're celebrating great things of our children, of our next generation, and a safe Canada. You have that promise from me.
Thank you, Brad. And I know Brad also spoke about this, and Sukhman, both in the House of Commons since Darshan Singh's murder. Navi, when I spoke to him yesterday, he said, when does this become an emergency? When does this become a crisis for there to be more action? And it already is. And amongst the many emotions that the family is going through, and Navi was saying he's angry, and he has every right to be angry. We should be angry. That's why all of you are here. This should not be happening in a country like Canada. The country that Darshan Singh says that he loved, adored, and it's not the same country anymore. We hear it over and over again. It just isn't the same country anymore. And so, Ginny had said to say, what have you been doing? So we did. I brought in a private member's bill that would have brought in mandatory minimum sentences for extortion. This was a couple of years ago when extortion had started to happen. We've been talking about it in the House of Commons many, many times. Not just extortion, but the rising cases of violent crime. We brought in legislation to change our bail system. It was far too easy to get bail right now. That system has to change. And so my commitment to you and on behalf of the Conservative Party as the deputy leader is that we will work with the government. We will work with other parties to ensure that we do get better legislation on changing our bail system, better legislation to ensure that we have stronger sentencing, mandatory minimums to strengthen our border, and to give the police the resources that they need to keep us safe. But they need those resources now. I know there's a commitment to bring in 1,000 officers, but we don't need those in 2 or 3 years. Let's work together to make sure that those resources are provided now. And once again, to the family, thank you for bringing everybody together. This is so important. You shouldn't have to do this, but it is very, very important, and I hope it's a turning point. Thank you. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa. Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
So Tim, I have sorry, I'm putting so many questions. So from now on, what is your plans going forward as being an opposition? So the ruling party will be in a line.
Yeah.
They will actually do what is actually needed right now. Public safety is the biggest thing. That's why we are here. So.
Anya, absolutely. Public safety. I mean, if you can't be safe, if your family's not safe, then there's nothing else that's important. Public safety is the most important thing. And the government's number one job is to keep its citizens safe. And so we will continue to push and fight for that. We will work with the government where we can to ensure that we see legislation that's strengthening our laws, that is doing that. We will stand with them. We will vote with them. We will, there's a bill right now, jail not bail. We need legislation like that. And I'm sure that we will get the same response from the government that let's work together, let's pass these legislation that strengthens our system right now. We need it. This country needs it.
And for some reason, if they are not listening to you, whatever the reason is that okay? You can, just tell your audience, in the future, if they're not listening to you, they're not, taking your suggestion. I think everything should be in the open for all these guys. So there is no if and but and this and that.
You're absolutely right. Everything has to be transparent. It has to be open. With this, I'll thank the media. Ginny, you guys, because you've been speaking out about it, became a victim yourself. But we come onto your shows. We talk right across the country. We go to TV shows, radio shows, talk about it in Parliament. We need to continue to push. I encourage every single one of you. Push email, talk, go visit your members of Parliament, whatever party they may be, and say, we need changes. We need changes. Changes haven't happened yet. And they can happen very, very quickly. The system is made for things to go very fast or very slow. And if we work together, we can get it done. It can be done very quickly. And I commit that from our side, we will work together.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. And what you heard very loud and clear, ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹੀ ਸੁਨੇਹਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਆਪਣਾ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ ਕੰਮ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਆਪਣਾ ਕੰਮ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਪਾਉਣਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਆ ਹਰੇਕ ਇਲੈਕਟਿਡ ਅਫੀਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਤੇ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਪਊਗਾ ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਗਾਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਇਨਵਾਈਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ the governing party federally, the Liberal Party, They can decide on one spokesperson, but the others are welcome to come on the stage and be introduced by them.
Good evening. First of all, government condemns all kinds of violence, whether it's an extortion, gang-related, or what happened to Darshan. First of all, I would pay my respects to Darshan, and I have come to know him. He was a saintly soul, always soft-spoken, never bullying, always willing to help. The man who loved his family, who loved his community, and loved his nation, which is Canada. Now comes to question is what we did and what we are going to do.
What are we gonna do? You know?
Yeah, that's
It is already
right.
gone. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
when it comes to justice system, it is a shared between federal and provincial. Provincial government is the one that administers courts, police, jails, bail supervision, and prosecution. First thing happened when it came to us that there was a foreign interference in Canada. Immediately, when there was Mr. Nijjal was assassinated in Surrey Newton at that time, I, along with my other colleagues, we picked up the fight. I brought in a private member's bill to make sure that I tell the government should do everything to curb this foreign interference, whether it's from India, China, Russia, Iran, or other nations. Government brought Bill C-70. In fact, everyone supported my private member bill. It was unanimously passed. Mr. Uppal and Helen are sitting here. And then Bill C-70 that gave our CSIS and other forces more powers and more tools to deal with these kind of violence that was happening and with the help of foreign governments. Presently, when we were out there, we were listening to people. We brought in the budget 2025, we committed $1.7 billion over 4 years for the RCMP to strengthen their response. Hired 1,000 new RCMP officers, 150 just towards the financial crime. 100 new CBSA officers. And then we were also talking to the police forces, the experts, they were asking for bail reforms. We brought in Bill C-14, which is in the House of Commons, which will tighten the bail reforms, which will give the onus, reverse onus now. Crown does not have to prove, in fact, the culprit has to prove that should be let free, so we can keep them behind the walls. Over the past many months, I was consulting with the experts, with the police forces. I have met with public safety minister was here, and I met with the police chief, and I raised that. I said, the arrests are made in Peel Division, arrests are made in Alberta. Why those arrests are not made here when these crimes are committed locally in British Columbia?
So what was their response?
Response was, they say that in the other provinces, it is the police lays the charges. In here, in British Columbia and another province, it is the Crown lays the charges, and we do not have resources to write a book to take it to the Crown immediately. In fact, the charges should be laid immediately. And then I, along with the Pacific Caucus colleagues, met with the Premier as well, and I raised that issue with Premier at that time as well. And the other thing that came up, not necessarily the police, but in fact, when I talked to the experts, they said that it needs an accelerated intervention. There is only one force that can deal with it, that is SEU. That has 400 police officers and 100 civilians already in that force. They are the ones only that can deal with it, because we got to catch the criminals, and that is the force have the power. And I wrote a letter to the provincial minister. In fact, along with my BC colleagues, Sainik and Witness, we were able to go to the minister and were able to convince the minister as well that this is the solution, we need to have it. So he can request the provincial minister as well that we need to have the CFSCU. And I also was able to take the other members of the parliament, the liberal members of the parliament, in confidence, so as the chair for the BC caucus also write a letter to the province to make sure that we are able to designate CFSEU as a force that should be responsible to deal with the crimes that are happening here today. The people might not know, Ginny, but CFSEU is, maybe I should be able to tell them, this brings expertise and resources from 14 police agencies across British Columbia, making it the most capable unit to address organized and transnational nature of the threat.
I have a follow-up question now. So the federal release the money to your state, right?
Wherever, in fact, when it comes to CFSCU, actually Mr. Tellon can speak better on this because he was part of that platform. So when it comes to federal government, when the provincial government requested that, then we put the resources. This is also, when we talk about CFSCU, if I'm not wrong, the federal government is also part of putting the resources in, but it is administered by the province.
Is there any timeline?
No, the CFSCU is already here.
Okay.
It's been part, because this force was formed to deal with the gang-related crime. And this is as serious, this is in fact a gang-related crime. And this is a force, because it's not that I woke up and smoked one morning and I came up with this idea that this should be given to the CFSEU. I consulted with the experts that have the knowledge, that have the experience, and they are the ones who guided me, and I fought for that within my caucus, and my caucus, BC caucus, was able to support, and in fact then I was able to go to the minister and I had to fight there as well. So he also comes on board and makes sure that this becomes the reality of the day.
So reason मैं क्यों एक question पूछ रहा हूँ, और especially thank you so much.
पहली बात देखो, I take few seconds. ਇਹ brother ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਪਾਣਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਘਰੇ ਗਿਆ, ਚਾਹੇ ਭੈਣ ਮਨਜੀਤ ਆ, ਨਵੀ ਆ, ਅਰਪਣ ਆ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਲੀਡਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਦਿਖਾਈ ਹੈ, it was encouraging, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਸਰਕਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣਾਇਆ, ਇਨਫੈਕਟ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਸੋਲੂਸ਼ਨ ਲੱਭਣ ਲਈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ, ਇੱਕ ਬੰਦਾ ਘਰੇ ਮੌਤ ਹੋਈ ਆ, people, and then people are willing to help, right? The community, that this never happens again. So I want to commend the Sahsi family and of course yourself as well, because you being the brother-in-law to Darshan.
Thank you. So question मैं क्यों किया, मैं सारे वास्ते clear करना चाहता, देखो 60 ਵਜੀ ਹੋਵੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਪੱਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਮਹੀਨੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਹੋਵੇ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਵੀ in between ਕੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਉਸ 60 ਤੇ। ਗੱਲ ਇਹ ਆ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅਕਾਊਂਟੇਬਲ ਬਣਾਓ ਸਟੇਟ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੈਸੇ ਰਿਲੀਜ਼ ਕਰਤੇ ਨੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਟ੍ਰਾਂਸਪੋਰਟ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਣਾਈ ਹੈ ਇਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਇਮੀਡੀਏਟਲੀ ਇੰਪਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਕਰੋ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਬਹਾਨੇਬਾਜ਼ੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸੁਣ ਲਈ। ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਰਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, there is a process, we know that, ਪਰ ਗੱਲ ਇਹ ਆ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਮਿਸਿਸ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਹੁਣ, ਔਰ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਸੋਲਿਡ ਪ੍ਰੋਮਿਸਿਸ, ਆਪਣੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਨਹੀਂ, ਕਿ ਸਾਡਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ ਐਸਟ, ਸਾਡਾ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਚੀਜ਼, ਸਾਡਾ ਹੁਣ ਮੇਰੀ ਭੈਣ ਬੈਠੀ ਹੈ, ਬੱਚੇ ਖੜੇ ਨੇ, ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਵੀ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਅਫੈਕਟਡ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ, ਸਾਡਾ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਹੁਣ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਦੀ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੁਝ ਹੋਰ ਬਚਾਉਣਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਚਾਉਣਾ। ਰੀਜ਼ਨ ਪਤਾ ਕੀ ਹੈ, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ 'ਚ ਵਿਲ ਹੋਵੇ, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ 'ਚ ਤਾਕਤ ਹੋਵੇ ਔਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਸੀਟ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਕਦਮ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਵੀ ਹੈ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪੁਸ਼ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, ਉਸ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੇ ਪੁਸ਼ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਕੁਝ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਹੁਣ ਟਿਮੋ ਲੋਰਾ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ, ਇਟ ਕੈਨ ਬੀ ਡਨ, ਮਿਸਟਰ ਢਿੱਲੋਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਇਟ ਕੈਨ ਬੀ ਡਨ। I think let's do it rather than waiting for another day or another death. We don't want to get together, like this. So thank you.
And I commit to you, and everybody knows that.
ਮੈਂ ਦੇਖੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲੇ ਆਏ ਸੀ, I just want to make a comment. ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਧਾਲੀਵਾਲ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਆਏ ਸੀ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਸੀ ਨਾ, ਤੇ ਕਨਫਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਅੱਜ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ, ਅੱਜ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਇੱਕ ਕਨਫਰਮ ਹੋਵੇ, ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਨੂੰ ਜਦੋਂ ਦੇਖੋ ਵੋਟਾਂ ਲੈਣ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਣਾ, ਮੇਕ ਸ਼ੋਰ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਕਰੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ। ਅਕਾਊਂਟੇਬਿਲਟੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਭਰਾ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਖੜਿਆ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛੋ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਇੱਕ ਵੋਟ, ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਇੱਕ ਇੱਕ ਵੋਟ ਇੰਨੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਮੁੜ ਕੇ ਕੋਈ ਗੋਲੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੱਲੇਗੀ। ਸੋ ਮੇਕ ਸ਼ੋਰ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਵੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਵੋਟ ਨੂੰ, ਆਪਣੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲੀਡਰਸ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਕਾਊਂਟੇਬਲ ਬਣਾਓ।
ਇੱਧਰਲੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਬੈਠਾ ਕਿ ਇੱਧਰਲੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਬੈਠਾ, ਉਹਦਾ ਫੋਨ ਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਮੈਂ ਪੁੱਛ ਰਿਹਾ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ, ਮੈਂ ਇਸ ਫੋਨ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਕਰਾਂ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ, ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਚੱਕੀ ਨਾ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਫੋਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੱਕ ਸਕਦਾ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਕਦੋਂ ਚੱਕੂਗਾ। ਚਲੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਫੋਨ ਉਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੱਕਿਆ, ਔਰ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਜਦੋਂ ਫਿਰ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਫੋਨ ਆਇਆ, ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਫੋਨ ਆ ਨੰਬਰ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਵੀ ਆਹ ਨੰਬਰ ਤੋਂ ਫੋਨ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ, ਇਹਦਾ ਟ੍ਰੇਸ ਕਰੋ। ਉਹਨੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਰਿਪੋਰਟ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਚੱਲ ਗਿਆ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਫੋਨ ਆਇਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਫਿਰ ਚੱਕ ਲਿਆ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਗੱਲ ਦੱਸੀ ਉਹਨੇ ਇਹ ਤੋਂ ਮੰਗ ਲਈ। ਉਹ ਮੈਂ ਫਿਰ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਪੋਰਟ ਕੀਤੀ, ਔਰ ਉਹਨੇ ਇਹ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਜਾਂ ਪੈਸੇ ਦੇ ਦੇ ਜਾਂ ਮਰਨ ਲਈ ਤਿਆਰ ਹੋ ਜਾ। ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਉਹ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ। ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਪੈਸੇ ਤਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣੇ, ਤੇ ਮੌਤ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਹੱਥ 'ਚ ਲਿਖੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮਰਨਾ ਤਾਂ ਮਰਨਾ ਹੈ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਕਰ ਲਿਓ। ਔਰ 5-10 ਦਿਨ ਲੰਘਣ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਫੋਨ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਰਹੇ। ਮੈਂ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ ਸੱਦ ਕੇ, ਘਰ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਸੱਦ ਕੇ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ ਰਿਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਦਾ ਰਿਹਾ। ਇੱਥੇ ਤੱਕ ਨਹੀਂ, ਮੈਂ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਦੇ ਚੀਫ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਜਾ ਕੇ, ਨਾਲ ਬੰਦੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ। ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਦੱਸੋ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਹੋ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬਾਰ-ਬਾਰ ਚੈਲੰਜ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਲਈ ਕੀ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ। ਔਰ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇ ਸਕਦੇ, ਤੂੰ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਆਪ ਹਾਇਰ ਕਰਨਾ। ਇਹ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਦਾ ਜਵਾਬ ਸੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਵਾਲੀ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਆ, ਉਹ ਕੋਲ ਗਨ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ, ਵੀ ਜੇ ਉਹ ਗੰਨਾਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ ਹੋਰ ਇੱਕ ਪੁੱਤ ਮਰਵਾ ਦਿਆਂ, ਵੀ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਕਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦਾ, ਵੀ ਚਲੋ ਜੋ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਦੇਖੀ ਜਾਊਗਾ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ ਦੇ ਦਿਓ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਗਨ ਰੱਖ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਵੀ ਜੇ ਆਏਗੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਟੈਕ ਕਰ ਦਿਆਂਗੇ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਕਹਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੇ। ਔਰ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਦੋ ਵਾਰੀ ਹੀ ਮਿਲੇ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਮੈਂ ਸਿਸਟਰ ਜਨਰਲ ਇੱਥੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ, ਅਟਾਰਨੀ ਜਨਰਲ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ, DGP ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ। ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਸੋਰਸ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਸੋਰਸ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਮੰਗ ਰਹੀ ਆ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੰਗ ਰਹੀ ਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ। ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਟੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਇਨਕਾ ਅਸੀਂ $100 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਦੇ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਾਂ, ਜੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ਼ਲ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਾਂ। ਫਿਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਤੋਂ ਗਏ, ਔਰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਦੀ ਸਿਟੀ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੰਚਾਰਜ ਹੈ ਲਵਿੰਸਕੀ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਕਹਿ ਰਿਹਾ, ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜੇ ਹੋਰ ਸੋਰਸ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਚਾਂਸ ਹੈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੋ, ਅਸੀਂ ਫਿਰ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲੀਏ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਸੋਰਸਿਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ, ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਇਨਫ ਸੋਰਸਿਸ ਹੈ। ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਵਜੂਦ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਬਈ ਫਿਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਕੀ ਆ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ 2-3 ਦਿਨ ਫੋਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਇਆ। ਮੈਂ ਫਿਰ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਕੋਲ ਗਿਆ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਜੋ ਮੈਂ ਪੁਰਾਣਾ ਪੈਟਰਨ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਰਿਹਾ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਦਾ ਪਤਾ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਜੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਖਮ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੋ, ਅਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਖਮਾਂ ਤੇ ਮਾਲਿਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਕੀ ਮਤਲਬ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਿਹਨਾਂ ਘਰਾਂ 'ਚ ਗੋਲੀਆਂ ਚੱਲਦੀਆਂ, ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਕੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਕੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਉਹ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪੈਟਰਨ ਦੱਸਦੇ, ਉਹ ਮੈਂ ਪੈਟਰਨ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਰਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਇਆ, ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਗੋਲੀ ਚੱਲ ਸਕਦੀ ਆ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਰਾਖੀ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਔਰ ਉਦੋਂ ਤੀਸਰੇ ਦਿਨ ਮੇਰੇ ਕੰਮ ਤੇ ਉਹਨੇ ਗੋਲੀ ਚਲਾਈ। ਮੇਰਾ ਬੇਟਾ 15 ਜਾਂ 20 ਮਿੰਟ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਐਂਟਰ ਹੋਇਆ, 10 ਮਿੰਟ ਬਾਅਦ ਮੈਂ ਐਂਟਰ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ, ਅਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਉਹ ਆਪਣੀ ਚੇਅਰ ਤੇ ਗਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ, ਮੇਰੀ ਐਨ ਚੇਅਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਦੀ ਗੋਲੀਆਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਗਈ। ਉਹਨੀ ਬਾਹਰੋਂ ਗੋਲੀਆਂ ਸ਼ੀਸ਼ੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੰਘ ਕੇ ਬਚਣਾ ਗਈਆਂ। ਜੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਬੈਠੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ, ਸਾਡਾ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਬੰਦਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਲੱਗਣਾ। ਲੱਕੀਆਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਗਏ, ਉਹ ਉੱਥੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ। 3-4 ਮਿੰਟ 'ਚ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਆ ਗਈ, ਔਰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਟਰੀਟ ਤੋਂ ਗੋਲੀਆਂ ਚੱਲੀਆਂ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਬੰਦਾ ਭੱਜ ਕੇ ਜਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਨੂੰ। 2 ਹੀ ਐਗਜ਼ਿਟ ਆ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਐਗਜ਼ਿਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਰੋਕਿਆ ਆ ਕੇ ਉੱਥੇ 20 ਗੱਡੀਆਂ ਆ ਗਈਆਂ, ਪੁਲਿਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਗੱਡੀਆਂ ਹੋ ਗਈਆਂ। ਜਿਹਨਾਂ ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਕਾਰ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਦੇਖੀ ਆ, ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਖੜਾ ਸੀ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਪੁੱਛਣ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਇਆ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ। ਗੱਲ ਇਹ ਆ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਦੀ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਇਹ ਸਮਝਦੀ ਆ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮਸਲਾ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਸੀ, ਇਹ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਮਸਲਾ ਨਹੀਂ, ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਮਸਲਾ ਆ। ਅਸੀਂ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਇੰਡੀਅਨ ਦਾ ਮਸਲਾ। ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੜਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਫੇਰ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਮੈਂ ਫੇਰ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਦੇ CM ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ, ਉਹਨੇ ਵੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਫੇਰ ਜਵਾਬ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਫਿਰ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਗਿਆ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਕੋਲ, ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਆਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ? ਫਿਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਵਾਬ ਇਹ ਸੀ ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸੋਰਸ ਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਕਮੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਮਿਲ ਗਏ। ਹੁਣ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਤੇਰੇ ਕਹਿਣ ਤੇ ਮਿਲੇ ਆ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਚੱਲ ਮੇਰੇ ਕਹਿਣ ਤੇ ਮਿਲੇ, ਲਾ ਲਓ, ਮਿਲ ਤਾਂ ਗਏ ਯਾਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ, ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ? ਪਰ ਕੋਈ ਕਿਸੇ ਕੋਲ ਕੋਈ ਜਵਾਬ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਤੀਸਰੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਗੋਲੀ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਤੇ ਚੱਲ ਗਈ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਵਾਲਾ ਆਫਿਸ ਉੱਤੇ ਚੱਲੀ, ਔਰ ਉੱਥੋਂ 8 ਵਜੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, 8:45 ਤੇ ਗੋਲੀ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਆ। ਕਾਰ ਦੇ 2 ਗੇੜੇ ਆਲੇ ਦੁਆਲੇ ਕੱਢੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਕੰਪਲੈਕਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਉਹ ਗੋਲੀ ਚਲਾ ਕੇ ਕਾਰ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਦੀਦੀ ਆ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਅੱਜ ਤੱਕ ਕੋਈ ਫੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ। ਔਰ ਕਾਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਸੇਮ ਬੰਦੇ ਚਲਾਉਂਦੇ ਗੋਲੀ, ਉਹੀ ਕਾਰ ਦੀ ਫੋਟੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਕੱਢ ਕੇ ਦਿੱਤੀ, ਉਸੇ ਕਾਰ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਗੋਲੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਚਲਾਈ, ਔਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਫੋਟੋ ਭੇਜਦੇ ਆ ਗੋਲੀਆਂ ਚਲਾ ਕੇ। ਉਹ ਉਸ ਗੰਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਫੋਟੋ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਭੇਜਦੇ ਆ ਵੀ ਆਹ ਤਕੜੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਓ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਿੱਖਣਾ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਮੈਂ ਫਿਰ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਨਾਲ ਗਿਆ, ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਮੂਵ ਹੋ ਜਾਓ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਉਹਨੇ ਜਵਾਬ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਸ਼ਰਮ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ, ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਮੈਂ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਲੀਡ ਕਰਦਾ, ਜਿਸ ਗਰੁੱਪ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਲੀਡ ਕਰਦਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਗਰੁੱਪ ਮਰ ਜਾਊਗਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਲੀਡਰ ਦੇ ਰੋਲ ਲਊਗਾ। ਸਾਡਾ ਲੀਡਰ ਹੀ ਦੌੜ ਕੇ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਮੈਦਾਨ। ਹੋਰ ਕੋਈ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਬਣੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਲਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੜਦੇ, ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਨੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਦੂਜਾ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਬਣਨਾ ਦਈਏ, ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਇਹਦੇ ਖਿਲਾਫ ਲੜੀਏ। ਔਰ ਇੰਨਾ ਹੀ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ, ਆਪਣੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਇਹ ਯਕੀਨ ਦਵਾਉਣਾ, ਮੌਤ ਹੋ ਜਾਏ, ਮੇਰੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰ ਦੇਣ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਮਾਰ ਦੇਣ, ਕਦੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆਊਗਾ ਕਿ ਕੁਲਵੰਤ ਡਰ ਕੇ ਦੌੜ ਗਿਆ, ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਖੜਾ ਰਹੂਗਾ। ਇਹਦਾ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਵਾਲ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ।
Just 1 minute. Thank you so much, Gurvinder. And now we have Harjinder Chand.
ਦੋਸਤੋ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਿਆਸੀ ਚੋਪੜੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਸੁਣ ਲਈਆਂ ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੁਲਵੰਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਢੇਸੀ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਤੋਂ ਹਕੀਕਤ ਵੀ ਸੁਣ ਲਈ। ਜਿੱਥੇ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਫਰਿਆਦੀ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਕਹੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਮੂਵ ਹੋ ਜਾ, 5-7 ਦਿਨ ਉਰੇ ਪਰੇ ਹੋ ਜਾ, ਫਿਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਲਾਅ ਐਂਡ ਆਰਡਰ ਦਾ ਅੰਦਾਜ਼ਾ ਲਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਅਸੀਂ ਸੋਲਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਲੱਭਣ ਲਈ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੋਏ ਸਾਂ, ਹੁਣ ਵੀ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਸੋਲਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਲੱਭੇ। ਸੋਲਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਲੱਭੇਗਾ? ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਮੂਹਰੇ ਬੁਝਾਰਤ ਬਣੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਫੋਰਮ ਨਹੀਂ, ਆਪਾਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ 'ਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਪਹਿਲੇ 2-3 ਫੋਰਮਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਵੀ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਾਂ। ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਆਦਮੀ ਸੀ, ਕਾਮਯਾਬ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸਮੈਨ ਸੀ, ਯਾਰਾਂ ਦਾ ਯਾਰ ਸੀ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਜਿਸ ਟ੍ਰੈਜਿਕ ਮੌਤ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵਿਛੋੜਾ ਦੇ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ, ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਫੇਰ ਨਾ ਵਾਪਰੇ। ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਦੀ ਇਹ ਇੰਟੈਂਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ। ਲੇਕਿਨ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਦੇਰ ਤੱਕ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਿਟੀਜ਼ਨ ਬਰਾਬਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਮਝੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ, can you imagine if these many shootings or these many killings would have happened in the mainstream community? All the hell will turn loose. There will be a curfew. There will be a military in the streets of the Vancouver, Surrey and Abbotsford. But the police chief is telling you, move away, ure pare ho ja ke. ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸੋਲੂਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਭਦੇ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਦੀ ਇੰਟੈਂਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਇਹ, ਪਰ ਹਕੀਕਤ ਤੋਂ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੋੜੀ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੀ। ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਚਲਾ ਗਿਆ, ਸਾਰਾ ਐਬਸਫੋਰਡ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਕਰ ਗਿਆ ਸਾਡੇ ਲਈ, ਪਰ ਹੋਰ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਜਾਵੇ, ਇਸ ਲਈ ਹੋਰ ਕਰੜੇ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧ ਕਰਨੇ ਹੋਣਗੇ। ਸੋਲੂਸ਼ਨ ਲੱਭਣ ਲਈ we need peace, order, and good government. Thank you.